Dirt Everyday Extras go live every weekday on Motor Trend On Demand. Here's an example of an episode you missed last week.
Hey Fred, it's Dirt Everyday Extra, and you know what I did?
What did you do, Dave?
I just hypothetically bought an 87 Chevy half-ton truck, and it's got a Dana 44 in the front.
How do you know it's a Dana 44, Dave?
Because it's a solid axle.
Yeah, but I don't know that they were all Dana 44s in the front.
Yeah, they were.
All right, so I think we should ask an expert of square body Chevys. I know just the guy. He lives in Colorado. He makes parts for Chevy square bodies, and his name is Stephen Watson.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Hey, Steve.
So,
What do I have?
Is this a Dana 44?
no.
What?
So, let's start with how to identify what you have under your truck. And the problem is, these Chevy trucks are like Legos. So you can just mix and match all of the parts very easily. So you could have a Dana 44 in your 80s truck that never came with one. So you do have to figure it out.
What the heck is
So,
this?
This is a GM 10 bolt.
No,
And
10 bolts came in the back of my El Camino.
You have an El Camino, too?
Yeah, it's
You
like a
have way
truck
too
and
many
a car.
we're not even going to talk about rears because they screwed that up a lot. So, front axle, GM in '78 decided that they were going to build their own axle. So American Axle, I don't know how they formed, probably some corporate deal, but they started building their own housing. So this is the GM corporate 10 bolt. You hear them, the corporation front end, there's
So the same
There's a lot of
family
slang.
as the corporate 14 bolt?
same company produced them.
Cool.
Nice.
So they obviously know what they're doing.
This is like a Dana 44. Is it
Very-
as good as a Dana 44?
Arguably very much as good as a 44.
Really?
There's like little back and forth things between them. The gear sets are very similar. The pinion bearing setup is a little better on the 10 bolt. There's a lot better parts availability for the 44, but there's no lack of parts for the 10 bolt. You can get any gear you want. You can get any locker you want.
Can you put a 10 bolt locker in a Dana 44?
No.
Can you put a 10 bolt gear in a Dana 44?
This is all 10 bolt.
Okay.
None of this is Dana 44.
Steve,
Dave has a question.
I once tried to put, I think it was, I got a good deal on some 10 bolt axle shafts because I broke a 44 axle shaft, and I hit it a lot with a hammer to get it in.
You probably went the other way.
Yeah.
Because the 10 bolt front ends, they mostly, starting in '89, they had some 30 spline fronts, which is the same spline count as the 44.
Yeah.
Everything previous to that was 28 spline. So these, in general, you're going to find a 28 spline axle. All of the Dana axles were 30 spline, the Dana 44s. And the axle shaft lengths are different. The spline pressure patterns are different. You know,
That's
pressure
what I was
angle.
having problems with.
Yeah, they could even be both 30 spline and they're not the same. They're easily identified by the length. So you can measure them out and they're different.
So, axle shafts are not the same, gears are not the same, lockers are not the same,
Nope.
bearings are not the same.
What's interchangeable?
What is the same?
Everything from here out
Okay.
is all the same. Your
N14.
hubs, your brakes,
The C.
Yeah.
yep, everything from the C out. Dana 44 parts will go on it. So if you need repair parts, you can mix and match and make things work. We commonly put crossover steering on 10 bolts by changing the knuckle out
Yeah.
with something that is either an earlier pair of Dana 44 knuckles or an aftermarket knuckle that just has a flat top on it to attach steering to.
Let's talk about knuckles, because there's all this stuff where
Well,
you got to have a Chevy knuckle
on.
because it's a flat top and it does this.
We
and
got
that.
one more thing before knuckles.
All right.
Let's back up. So to figure out if you have a
Oh.
10 bolt or a 44, this cover is completely round.
I bet
There's
it's-
not a flat surface on it.
Fred Williams.
I bet it's got 10 bolts.
There are 10 bolts. Don't even think about that because that even comes down to what's on the ring gear,
Oh.
which throws everything off.
How many ring gear bolts
10.
is that? How many bolts does...
On 10.
Oh, well,
10
that-
bolts means nothing.
Okay.
What?
It's the shape.
This
That's
thing being called a 10 bolt axle is 100% a slang term that somebody came up with.
Probably
this
a
is-
magazine hack.
Probably one of those guys. This is a GM 8.5 if you want to get even more techie with it because it's an 8.5-inch ring gear, just like the Dana 44 has an 8.5-inch ring gear. But to figure out what you have, because it's important if you're going to order a gear set and a locker for it,
Or if you're hunting the junkyard and you want a solid front axle.
yeah, you need to know
What
what,
do
you
you look
have.
for?
So this cover is totally round. You know, these portions right here, importantly, are round,
Okay.
totally round. when you look at a Dana cover, the sides are flat.
Okay.
And Dana actually uses, you have to be a little careful, they use the same cover shape. It's like a kind of a Dana trademark.
Yeah.
You'll find the same cover shape on a Dana 70 or a Dana 60, but
bigger.
Much bigger. And it's this trademark flat side Dana shape
So that's what
that
I'm
is
looking
important.
for.
That's
And
what you're
notice
looking
how
for.
right there in the casting, glaring in the sunlight,
It says 44.
This
and
one
this-
says Dana 44 right on it.
and this one probably doesn't.
These have nothing.
Okay.
Also, these generally have a kind of a smoother bottom. There's not a casting
Nub.
piece under here.
Like this thing.
And these have these little horns.
Uh-huh.
That's actually for the U-bolt. The horns are down.
Oh, down in the dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's kind of a little bit of a square
Oh,
piece
yeah.
cast out there
Right there.
where you can see on the bottom. So that helps ID them also. But really, flat sides versus rounded sides is what to look for. That's the big deal.
Cool.
So you
now,
can have a 10 bolt or you can have a 44,
Yep.
but you can interchange knuckles.
You can interchange
got it.
knuckles, you can interchange entire housings. The spring perches are the same width, the shock mounts are the same. In different generations, you'll find different arrangements for the steering stabilizer and the tie rod. But in general, the 10 bolt was from 78 and a half-ish, 79 and newer. The Dana 44 was 78 and back, although there are rumors of some trucks getting some Dana 44s carried over even to the early 80s, just because they had stuff left over. But in general, 79 up, 10 bolt, 78 back, Dana 44.
Now, what if it's 8 lug? Could you have an 8 lug 10 bolt?
Yep.
you
Doesn't
have a-
matter what goes on out here. Doesn't matter with what's in there because they made 6 and 8 lug versions of both.
Cool.
Either way.
If you were building a rock buggy, would you rather have a 10 bolt in the front, a 44, or don't care, whatever you can get cheaper?
For hard off-road use, I might lean a little bit toward a Dana 44 just because all the axles are 30 spline,
Okay.
and you're definitely going to want to have 30 spline shafts. The 30 spline 10 bolt is a little more specialized because it was a late version. It was 89 to 91 in Blazers and Suburbans only.
Okay.
I'll take a 44.
Yeah, you're leaning a little bit toward the 44, but that's really it.
Now, you have drum brake 44s and disc
Yeah.
brake 44s?
Well,
And 8 luggers. And this one here only has 6 lugs sticking out.
I don't think those are the wheels.
who is this guy?
So these are the steering knuckles, and the Chevys always use a 6-bolt spindle, where the Ford will use a 5-bolt spindle.
Yep, but you do have to be careful because
Oh,
I
come
talk to
on.
people that, yeah, it's 6 lug,
Yeah.
But that's
but
not
they're
the
thinking
lugs.
about the spindle pattern, not the actual lug studs where the wheels bolt on. So that is an important distinction. You got to remember that.
So that's the knuckle right there.
That's the
Steering knuckle,
And
right
then the
here.
spindle bolts to that. And then the hub goes over the spindle and the brakes and everything. And that's the stuff that we're saying can be converted from side to side. That knuckle and all the spindle and everything that would go with it could go on a 10 bolt or on a Dana 44.
Yep.
Pretty good medium duty, what would you call this?
Yeah,
quarter
anything-
ton, half ton axle here.
Yeah.
You can find them under, there's new versions of 44s under Jeeps,
Yeah.
Wranglers, and everywhere back to Blazers and full-size trucks.
The aftermarket is stuck with Dana 44 forever.
There's tons of aftermarket support for it.
Well, one thing we should distinguish is that the JK axle has nothing to do with the older Dana 44.
Yeah.
They kept the name. Everything else is different. They should have called it a Dana 45.
Because
but
it's got a little bit bigger parts, bigger gears, bigger
Yeah.
axle shafts. and
nothing interchanges.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not the same really at all, other than Dana makes it and it says 44.
everything. So, Dave, your hypothetical 87 Chevy half-ton may have a 10 bolt.
It probably does.
But I don't think
Probably.
it's a bad axle from what
Yeah.
Steven tells us.
If you're
used-
running 33, 35-inch tires, they're entirely usable. The 28 spline axle shafts in factory form are just as strong as the Dana 44 because they all have a little pinch down area right
Yeah.
by the splines where they're kind of designed to break. And that makes both spline counts the same strength.
Yeah.
So, the
So-
biggest tire you would run with a 10 bolt or a Dana 44?
Reliably, a 35 works pretty good. In a lighter vehicle with a careful driver, a 37 can do okay for lighter duty use.
Dave likes light vehicles, but I'm not sure if I would say careful driver.
Right.
Not a good driver.
And lowest gears that you can get for a 10 bolt and a 44. I think
I'd have to go look it up.
538.
I think you can get into 538s with both of them.
Okay.
I know at least 513s,
Cool.
and
So,
you're starting to get pretty weak, and you probably don't want deeper than that.
Any other questions?
even though a lot of people talk smack about this axle, it's really not that bad.
They're not bad.
Cool.
You know, pretty much the equivalent of a 44 for most people.
Right on.
That's it for Dirt Everyday Extra. We're going to go get lunch and then come back later and tell you more cool stuff that we show you from Stephen Watson's backyard.
All right,
I'm ready for lunch.
lunch. Oh, hey, look,
Do we need to
30-06.
Do we need to put that axle back?
Not really, actually.
If you need more Dirt Everyday Extra, go sign up right now.